This is TWiT.
I am looking forward to chatting about your pick this week, Emily.
All right, so my story of the week is about X, or Twitter, releasing its first transparency report under Musk. Elon Musk, he bought Twitter in October 2022. Last year was the first full year of his ownership. He did not release the report. Now, 2024, we get a report, and it goes into how the company is moderating content, which is really interesting because Musk has made lack of content moderation a cornerstone of his leadership style and his public persona. So now we're getting a look at what the company is doing. So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, up to this point, I do feel like up to the point at which Elon took over, there was we started to see, I guess, a change in Twitter at the time, in the sense that they really did respond to, or started to respond to, what people were saying about harassment and safety concerns on the platform, and started to kind of iterate in public and be more transparent as a company. And it was kind of refreshing to see. I think that it started to build trust back into the company for the people who are using it. Because again, this is one of these products, this type of product that requires people actually being part of it and choosing to put themselves there, and does not exist without that. And so people, at one point saying, I don't think I want to be here because bad things happen anytime I post something, to a time where, there was more clarity about what was right, what was wrong, and that we could kind of see things play out. Then Elon Musk took over the company, and that crumbled, tumbled, and fumbled all over the place in so many ways. And it was, honestly, I think, as we were both kind of talking about, a little shocked to see a transparency report at all. How have they had time with the 4 people who work there these days?
The 4 people, the ban in Brazil, a lot going on. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Since he's taken over, he's really made a point to show how they're not moderating content. So a classic example is Donald Trump's account was banned after January 6th. Elon Musk comes in, reactivates it, and then he also reactivated, white supremacists, white nationalists, just kind of going to the extreme to prove how serious he was about this platform becoming a self-regulated kind of free-for-all. But what we see in this report is really surprising, that X has actually banned almost 5 times the amount of accounts as it did a couple of years ago. So I'll read you the numbers on that one. So in 2021, X suspended 1.3 million accounts in the first half of the year. In the first half of this year, they suspended 5.3 million accounts.
That's quite a few more.
Quite a few more. The top reason for suspension was actually, it's dark. It's like child sexual exploitation stuff. There's also hateful accounts, and it's dark stuff. You really would want it to be banned. So it's a huge jump, and the number of accounts I don't think has jumped to that volume. There's not 5 times the usership since he took over.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Something that surprised me about this is when I had, first read the numbers had changed, I immediately thought, okay, this is going to be his whole promise about getting rid of bots on the platform. That, the reason that these accounts were banned is simply because they're automated accounts that are, spamming people or whatever. And so I was shocked to see that it was a different category. Yes, a very dark category, but it was a different category. Is there any self-awareness in the transparency report where they are saying any comments about that difference in numbers? I mean, are they themselves going, okay, we recognize that, we were supposed to be letting more be on the platform, but we're not, we're blocking more than we ever have before? Or is it just here it is, goodbye?
That's a good question. They don't benchmark any numbers in the report. They just say this is the total amount we suspended. They also removed 10.6 million posts. They categorize the user reports for what people wanted to be removed. So they just give the numbers from the first half of this year with no benchmark on previous years. And what we've done and other publications have done is to go through those old reports and find the difference and see how the strategy has differed over the years. So it's really surprising that they just present it as bragging, kind of, to me, like, wow, look at all these millions of accounts we've suspended, these millions of posts we've taken offline. And it's a totally different tone than what we get from Elon Musk himself. And of course, I mean, he's not CEO. That would be Linda Yaccarino. But just the difference between this report and what he makes it seem like is going on is very stark.
Yeah, that alone was surprising to me. The difference that we see here. Anything else that's really kind of stood out about the transparency report? Another thing that I was kind of caught off guard by is I'm used to transparency reports from tech companies being about how the government has requested data and what data has been handed over. Is this just simply a trust and safety transparency report, or does it also involve that kind of information?
It does involve that kind of information. And the Washington Post went through the requests that X has complied with this year versus previous years and found that X complied with 71% of requests, which is 20% higher than the last time X reported it in 2021. So they're also complying with more government requests. So they're trying to paint this picture like they are, I don't know, taking people down, banning accounts, like this policing system. They talk about it being part automated, part human moderator. And they moderate it and they break that down on how much is being taken down by a computer and how much humans are reviewing. And they're trying to make it seem like they're on top of it. And so I have some thoughts on what the motivations are here that we could get into if you want to switch to that.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so this is maybe a little bit of insider baseball, but if you'll indulge me, just like as a member of the press, I've been writing about Elon Musk's companies for years. So I write about AI, EVs, space, social media. That's Tesla,
Elon,
SpaceX. Yeah, exactly. All Elon all day. And I have never received an email back from any of his companies. They do
never.
Of course,
They used to respond. They used to, right?
Yes.
There were some that did, right?
They did, but that predates me as being a journalist. So it's been really going on for a while. They just don't respond. And when Elon took over Twitter, he also ported over that strategy from Tesla to auto respond to the press with a poop emoji. Mm-hmm. He changed it to just, we'll respond later. And then last week I emailed about another story I wrote and it just said, busy, check back later. It's, it's empty.
So you do that for people who don't understand why you would keep responding. It's not, or why would you keep reaching out? In that case, it's not necessarily that you are waiting for them finally to respond. It's so that you're doing your due diligence as a journalist, just in case they decided to claim, and, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but going there, they said, oh, we would have responded to the journalist, but they didn't reach out. You get to then say that you tried to reach out to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard practice. I talk to all the companies I write about, all the car companies, all the major tech companies we email with, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI. It's just standard practice. So I just do that as a good journalist, to do that due diligence in case they do respond. They don't respond. And Musk also, over the summer, he boosted or retweeted a post that said, you can really ignore mainstream media. So he's made kind of don't read the news, don't talk to the news, a huge aspect of his persona, which he repeatedly tweets about. So when X proactively contacted the press about this report several days ago, gave it to people under NDA. This is also an insider of how the press works. You'll get stuff in advance, and then you write up the article and set it to publish at a certain time. That is the most proactive a company can be about getting its news out, which they chose to do only for this report. And I had a friend at another publication who said she got the email and she literally thought it was spam. It is just shocking to receive an email from X, especially with like a legitimate piece of news. So yeah, I don't know what you think of. I can pause there because I'm getting into the weeds.
This has kind of caught journalists off guard, I think, that for the first time in a while, you had received a response from X or an email from X, and even one of your colleagues thought it was spam. Do you feel like this speaks to a larger change in the company, or are we working with a situation where it has to do specifically with the kind of content that this is and how it reflects positively on the company? Is there something behind it, I guess is what I'm saying, a motive?
I think there is a motive, and the most obvious one is that advertiser revenue has really plummeted and continues to plummet, and X is having some financial troubles, and the advertisers have said that they don't feel comfortable putting their, shoe ad or their Shopify ad right next to like a white nationalist post. Like it might appear in a feed that way. So the lack of content moderation has driven advertisers away. So it does seem like now X is trying to change the narrative, trying to turn that ship around and put out materials that say, hey, we actually really are moderating a ton of content. So that's what they're trying to do. It is interesting. The strategy and the narrative is so different from Musk, but again, he's not CEO. But it does seem like they are trying to dig themselves out of a little bit of a ditch that persona has gotten them in.
See, and that's interesting to me because just the other day, I was talking with a friend who was asking about X, formerly known as Twitter, and why people were saying X, formerly known as Twitter. And for a while, AP and other organizations had kind of suggested that that's how you should refer to it. And so I wanted to see if things had been updated. So I went to my handy dandy AP Stylebook account and saw that they now just refer to it as X. But and you know what? I'm not going to just say this from memory. I'm actually going to go there and read what it said because I found it interesting and a little shady. I don't think that it was trying to be shady, as the AP Stylebook is not about that, at least not on its actual style book, maybe more on its social media accounts. But it says, X is the entry. That's all it says. It says, a social network formerly called Twitter on which users share text, photos, videos, and links with their followers in short messages. It goes on to talk about when Elon purchased it. And then in the third paragraph, it starts out, though its cultural relevance has declined, X is still used by influential people, including journalists, policymakers, and celebrities. It is not necessarily reflective of the general population. It should not be a substitute for traditional interviews and reporting. Right. We know that last part, but I thought that first part, though its cultural relevance has declined, this makes me want, I wish that I could talk to the people and get true and clear answers, because it almost makes me think that there are only so many quote unquote edgelords in the world. And once you have spent your time trying to, bring in all the edgelords, and then you realize that they make up a subset of the population, and also, more importantly, they result in companies not wanting to advertise on your platform, then you're between a rock and a hard place, although it's not that hard of a decision, but it can be. And so you got to kind of go, oh, right, we actually need to appeal to the general masses, because we've absolutely fumbled the ball here, because once it was such cultural relevance, and we've broken. This is where I get a little annoyed, because I just think about how, right here on my it says Mikah Sargent, and then it says at Mikah Sargent. This used to mean go to Twitter and that was me. It still does mean that, but it could also mean go to Threads and that's me. Go to Mastodon and type that in and hope that you find me. Go to Blue Sky and I might be there at this. I'm not there at this. What does this mean anymore? And that's so disappointing to me. And I wonder if internally they're having that realization that they need to try to reclaim the Twitter of yore. But how do you distance yourself from someone who is more of a walking ego than many other people? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I wonder what time frame the AP is talking about there, because I do think Twitter has missed the boat on courting the younger generations, which are going, I think Instagram or TikTok are more popular. And now Musk is kind of narrowing it even more and trying to say, okay, this is maybe a hub for people, people who love Twitter under him are more right leaning. They maybe there's a big crypto community. These are the communities he's trying to foster. So it's almost becoming more of like a niche site. I do think it still has relevance on both sides of the political spectrum, but usership is down and it's not really growing. Money is down and it's not really growing. And Twitter blew the ability to buy a check mark, did not turn that ship around. Most users do not pay a monthly $8 a month to use Twitter. X. I say X in my reporting. I've adopted it for the record.
I mean, I would, as exactly with AP saying it, then I'm like, okay, that's a guy. I do what AP says, except for the more than versus over. I still say more than, but anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Right. I agree with your rant. My rant on this as a member of the press is like, you want to disparage publications, create this broad stroke mainstream media, whatever the heck that means, that broad term, to just take down people who work every day to bring unbiased reporting, to do interviews outside of X, to get large swaths of population's opinion on things and represent the wider world. That's what we do. We try to educate people. And he spends every day trying to cut down those people. But now when he needs money, when his platform needs the audience that those publications have, now they reach out and they say, hey, write about this because it's going to get us money. So now you need us. And you've weakened us by creating this whole against the press thing. And now you just expect us to write about it. So that's why in my article, I did provide this other context on why they might be pushing out the report. But it's just a frustrating relationship. And if he is going to like throw stones and throw rocks at the press, I don't see why, we shouldn't call out some of these finer nuances of just how odd this report is and what it could mean for the company.
Wow. That must be incredibly frustrating. I think particularly because there is a level of, there's still a level of handcuffs involved because the company does have just enough relevance that even if you would want to not cover it, it needs to be covered to a certain extent.
Yeah, so also the content moderation practices on X do need to be closely monitored because they have had real world impacts. Like, there's tons of, January 6th, I brought up the Trump example. They did ban that account because he was quote unquote inciting violence through those posts. Like, it's in the public interest to report on what is happening on this platform in terms of content moderation. So we always take the higher road. It's just like, why can't everyone do that?